It's selfishly, it's the consistency of sharing gratitude in my life that has done so much for me. I haven't tried to expand the room or anything. I just want to make sure that I have gratitude when I wake up in the morning. And the best way to do that is to share it verbally.
Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast, presented by Planet of One. We're sharing stories and conversations, encouraging and empowering listeners to be bold, take action, and be your best self, so we may be the change we desire to see in this world. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. Well, hello, Ryan and Alan. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's good to see both of you.
Back at you. Ryan, we're excited to have you with us today. I'd love for individuals to really hear about your background, because you have done a lot in your lifetime, and your lifetime is what, 30? Are you 30 now?
I am 30.
You've done a lot. I would love for you to give us a little bit of a synopsis of where you've been, what you've done so far, so that the viewers understand who you are.
Well, I first want to say thank you, Rima, and Alan. I think both of you guys are such incredible, positive, kind, passionate, encouraging leaders. And so it's a pleasure to be on with both of you.
Appreciate
you. And to have gotten to know each other. I'd say my background is just a credit to my mother in a lot of ways. She and I asked her, I say, Mom, what was the common denominator? Because you're such an amazing woman. How did you help me to become the person I am today? And she said that it had a lot to do with having a foundation of faith, both in our life. When my father passed away when I was 7 years old, she always carried faith, and she carried faith for us. It was like you could picture like a bird with its eggs. We were kind of like still the eggs, and we were just kind of opening up and cracking the shell open, me and my brother, and she was the bird, that protected the nest. And she protected it in a lot of ways. She kept us out of harm's way as kids and as teenagers, and she put us into a Christian school. She put us into a private school. She always made sure that we had great friends around us, and she sheltered us. And for me, that was the right recipe, for me at least. And that was the foundation of who I became. I say that I had love in my early years. I had friendship in my teenage years. I learned how to really be a great friend. I had great friends around me. And then in my 20s, I learned business. And I happened to just be thrown into the mix and become an executive at the age of like 25 for a large company. And so whatever challenge came my way, I was ready for that challenge, and I was ready to make the most of it in gratitude for everything that I have, in gratitude for the love that I've always received.
Sounds like you had a lot of trials and tribulations very early on in life, from 7 and onward. You're losing a parent. It's a big deal, and you kind of had to grow up pretty fast, it sounds like.
Yeah, and just being full transparency, my dad committed suicide, so it was a very challenging time for my brother and I. And if you think too much about why did that happen, why did he do that, wasn't he thinking of us? Did he really love his kids? If you start to think about those things, I'd be a totally different person than who I am today. Instead, I thought, well, that happened, and I have an amazing group of people around me, so let's conquer the world. And that's where I went with it.
Yeah, it's a 180 from where a lot of people go with it. So it's a big inspiration for sure.
Did you automatically think that, Ryan? Or was your mom an inspiration in that? Because like Alan was saying, most people go in the other direction of questioning things. What was that key that you either learned or became immediately in the way you were presenting yourself?
My mom is such a tough and strong woman that there were definitely two ways to go about it. So I remember I wrote a book about sitting around the dinner table and just being pestered with questions. Like, hey, Ryan and Connor, my brother's name is Connor. How was your day today? Did you, why did you get that C? Did you talk to the teacher about it? And it was never in a way of frustration or pride or anything. It was all based on love and care. And so you could go two ways with that. And I just said, you know what? Between me and my brother, one of us has to break out of our shells and answer these questions and go and lead in the communities. And that's what I did. So I took those questions and I went and acted. And one of the things that one of my coaches, I had an amazing coach last year, Kevin Horsley. He's a mind coach out of South Africa. He's a grandmaster of memory. He's memorized pi. And he said, Ryan, your skill set is that you were able to replace your father with hundreds of great men and taking little pieces of information from each of those people. And that's kind of how I approach life.
It's like the village raising the child. And it's kind of the mentality behind that. I grew up a very similar way in context of multiple people taking ideas from and absorbing them into my persona. Where did you grow up, by the way?
So one other thing is someone asked me the other day, I have such cool friends, right? So I'm in so many entrepreneurial groups and just have these guys and girls who are just such amazing people. And he said, Ryan, I've been contemplating a topic of generational wealth. What is the definition to you? So, well, I've never contemplated that topic. So let's start with you. How about that? And he said, I believe generational wealth is who your parents put you around, who your children have as their support structure outside of just your parents. How are they supported? And that to me is a great term for generational wealth. But yeah, I grew up in Danbury, Connecticut.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're New Englanders.
I love that answer of the generational
That's a
wealth.
great answer. Yeah.
Because most people would think of wealth as funding and money, and they forget the things that truly matter and make a difference in growing up and moving forward and becoming the best human being that you can be. So it's wonderful that you recognize that at this age, and you've been recognizing that for a long time.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. It's something that when you have great people around you, they help you realize the assets, the emotional assets that you have in your life, the intangible assets, and that's one of them.
How did you move into the executive role at such a young age?
That was my question too, because you went to the spiritual realm and then went into the corporate world. So how did that happen?
Because in our minds, sometimes they don't cross well.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's funny about when you get to the executive roles, you realize that you're just a dude. Like, I'm just a dude, or you're just a lady. Success at that stage is the same thing that is success in a friendship, in my opinion, or success as a brother, or success as a parent. It's all the same. And so for me, I just had an in. Everyone says, oh, he's gotten in, or he's gotten in. That's why he's doing what he's doing. I'm able to, I take advantage of every in that I have. So I had an in, and I only cared about financial goals at the time. This was when I was graduating college, because I always had to listen, not had to, I had the opportunity, I get to listen to my mom as a kid talk about how, the house is being foreclosed on and we don't have any cash flow. And she didn't use the term cash flow because she probably doesn't know what cash flow is, but she's an angel, so it doesn't matter. And so, but my mind was always like, this will never be my family, right? I always want to be able to provide financially for my family. So all I thought about was, how can I earn X by 25, X by 27, and X by 30? And I had a position to do that. So, I had a connection, and I dove right in, and I'll share with you this funny story I gave to the interns that work for me now. and it's called The Ice Cream Story. Actually, you guys heard it from Patrick. So
no, say it again.
I'm just
Go ahead for the listeners and the viewers.
We're not the only ones.
I'm DJing Patrick's story, and I may get it wrong, but I like my version of it. This is Patrick Carney, who's a mentor of each of us.
Absolutely.
And the story goes like, there's this kid and he asked his mom on Tuesday that he heard the ice cream truck coming by, and he said, "Hey mom, can I get some ice cream?" And she said, "No, no ice cream today." So now it's Thursday and the ice cream truck comes by and it's a hot day. So he goes, "Hey mom, can I get some ice cream?" And mom goes, "No, no ice cream. It's Friday. It's Friday. Can we get some ice cream?" "No, no ice cream." "All right, well, it's Saturday." And Saturday, this kid named Alan happened to wake up early and he just had tons of energy. So he went out and he, cleaned up his mess. And then he went out and played basketball with the neighbors. Then he came home and his mom was making lunch. So he helped, put the sandwiches together, and he engaged his mother for a half hour. And then the ice cream truck came by and he said, "Hey mom, could I get some ice cream?" She said, "Yeah, of course you can get some ice cream. Let's go." And so that's kind of how I live my life. You have to be a giver first, as we all are. And yeah, that's how I got. So I got into my executive role. I realized how important it is to give your time, give your work ethic, be a student, and that's all it took to be successful.
Yeah,
Ryan,
for your energy, huh?
Ryan, you did make a lot of money in your early 20s, and you've kind of shifted. You're still would love to be the breadwinner of your own family and be a giver, but you've also shifted and incorporated other things. When did you begin to change the way that you think about success?
When I made money. So I had, like you said, I was in the 1%. I was earning in the 1% between, the ages of 25 and 27. And as an American, so, I'm really a 1%er when you look at the world. And just having that perspective of the world has always been important to me, especially recently. But once I earned, I said, what am I going to do with my money? And I didn't have a plan. So, for me, I look around and I see a lot of Ryans. I see a lot of people who are high earners, but they don't really have a plan for what they're going to do with their money. Once I earned, I spent it all. I spent it all in like 18 months, 2 years. But I just realized that money is not what you're striving for. I was earning a lot of money. I had the greatest mentor that I was reporting directly to. He was a CEO. I was running 2 companies as the head of business development. All my sales reps were people who had been in the industry for 30 years. And there's, reporting to this 26-year-old who's making almost $400,000. And I just realized that money isn't it. Like we're here to serve. And what was I serving? I was serving the robotics industry. And I enjoy the robotics industry. I enjoy the 3D printing industry that I was serving. But is that really the industry that I meant to serve? Probably not. Does that give back to the world in the greatest possible way? One could put a story together that would say it would. I'm sure I could, but probably not. So that's when I started to think about what could, and that's when I got into Book Thinkers, which is a book-based company, and we grew that brand. And everyone who messages us on Instagram gets a personal book recommendation, and that's something that changed my life. So that was my first foray into trying to do life-changing work.
You an avid reader?
I think, people come to me all the time and they'll either expect I'm an avid reader, or they'll ask, I don't know, I've never gotten into reading, you're lucky or whatever. And I was horrible at reading comprehension. Like I was the lowest 20 percentile. It's not meant for me, but I just realized that in reading comes growth. And it just was very clear to me. So I just stuck those headphones in my ears and I started listening to books that I thought I would enjoy. I found a few, and then I just started flipping the pages afterwards. So now I am a reader. Yeah, Alan, I read occasionally, not every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
How did you get into your gratitude habit? Because you run on Clubhouse every morning, a gratitude half an hour. How'd you get into that?
Well, I could definitely put together some very cool stories. But the truth is that my business partner and I were hosting a room on Clubhouse, and we said, what should this room be about? And we started to think to ourselves, what about gratitude? And gratitude is ultimately probably, to me, the most important thing in life. So gratitude and faith probably. And that's what happened. And then we just started rolling. And next thing you know, went from the two of us talking to ourselves to three of us talking to ourselves to four of us talking to ourselves. And then now we've got, four of us talking to ourselves and a few people listening. But it's selfishly, it's the consistency of sharing gratitude in my life that has done so much for me. I haven't tried to expand the room or anything. I just want to make sure that I have gratitude when I wake up in the morning. And the best way to do that is to share it verbally. So that's kind of how it happened. I mean, the cooler story was that I was in Cartagena, Colombia, and I was looking at how people interact in the community in Cartagena, and I was feeling blessed to be around what I believe is more of a true family environment and community than what I've experienced here in many places of the US. And so that struck light on me. And it was at the same time I was giving gratitude every morning, and I was waking up and going to the beach and seeing kids playing soccer and seeing people splitting coconuts. And, there's 80-year-old guys who are pushing, these like trolleys with fruit on them all day in 95-degree heat. And there's kids that are hustling lollipops because their parents need the money for the family. And so it was just a different world. And it was really cool that I was starting in gratitude at the same time that I was experiencing all of that for the 6 months I was down there. And I think that kind of propelled the room to now we're in 14 months strong.
Congratulations on that. Honestly.
Thank you.
You do it every day?
Every weekday, Monday
Weekday.
through Friday at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, under the Book Thinkers brand.
For me, Ryan, when I think of you, I think of this very thoughtful individual, and especially at such a young age. And I understand a lot of it came from your mom, but you've actually invested your time and energy into becoming this person. And it shows even in you starting the gratitude room. And now you're venturing into a new avenue of mentoring. Would you elaborate on where you think you would love to see yourself and where you're taking that?
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. I know it's relatively fresh, but I have the opportunity to connect with amazing people. And sometimes, like Rima and Alan, you guys are so amazing. I'm also so amazing. And sometimes we neglect to talk about how amazing we are because we've been influenced and became so great because of so many others in the collection of their mentorship. And that's certainly the case for me. Yeah, I remember I was in an entrepreneurial group with a gentleman, Greg Reed. It's called Secret Knock. And he was saying, everyone that I've learned from that's on this stage, they're both a mentor and a mentee. I said, wow, if they could be both a mentor and a mentee, and that's a part of their success, I think I should be both a mentor and a mentee. And so I've informally coached people up probably my whole life. For sure, like not probably 100%. And then as of recent, I've coached young entrepreneurs in their 20s to try to avoid mistakes that I've made in my 20s. And people really take to it. So I said to myself, this is something that I should promote. This is something that I should formalize and I should promote because I've always helped others in what they've in their journey, and others have always helped me in their journey. So now we have things called coaches, and I'm a coach. So here we are. And I look forward to coaching kids between the ages of, like 15 and 25. Especially around that college age, you really are discovering yourself. I've got a funny story I'd love to share with you guys. I was super shy in high school, and I passed a really pretty girl because I was respectful. I looked at this podcast. What's the basis of it? It's kindness, it's love, it's respect, it's uplifting, it's encouragement. I was all that, but I wasn't outgoing. I was shy. I hardly even dated. And I passed this really pretty girl, and she looked at me and she wanted to say hi. And it's like I got a ball of something in my throat and I just couldn't say a word. And I thought to myself in that moment as she passed by and I was stuck in frozen or in quicksand, I thought, if I could build on my communication, well, first I thought there's 3 ways college is going to go. And this is something I could help, others with. You're either going to talk to everyone, you're going to talk to no one, or you're going to do the in between, which is, you meet so many people in your freshman year who maybe you say hi to, but you don't know. So the in between I was like, no way am I doing that. I'm not going to be like debating every time, making a small decision on if I should say hi to someone. It sounds miserable. And then I said, well, being a loner, with only a few friends also doesn't sound like the experience that college really offers us. So I guess I'll talk to everyone. And that's what I started to do. And then at the same time, I was standing there and I thought to myself, if I could build on my communication skills by talking to everyone, then I'll be successful regardless of what career I go into. And that was my epiphany. And then I just started talking to everyone. It led to sales, now operations, entrepreneur. But that was the epiphany right there. And I think that's a really cool epiphany.
Yeah, you're speaking my language because I had a very similar upbringing. And one of the things you recognize going to college is that you can reinvent yourself, and if you wanted to, and it would. How it worked for me is that I would look at the people that were the popular kids, and I just kind of study them and understand what are they doing that I'm not doing, and that was talking to people. First, it started with looking people directly in the eyes. And I had to like force myself to do it, almost to a point where it was kind of creepy to other people, or they noticed it. My first girlfriend noticed that I was doing that. I'm like, well, I got a girlfriend out of that. But the idea is that you can then get to a place where you overcame your shyness by just talking to everybody, just getting out there. Not there's no obstacles anymore. It's like, well, we'll see what happens if I do it this way. I was the exact opposite before. You try the opposite, and it seemed to have worked for you. Merging the ability to be respectful and a warm individual, and then force yourself to be outgoing. Was there anybody that particularly that you noticed, like, why did outgoing become the trait?
It was just that divine intervention. I think we all have these kind of channels, and it's, are you open? Are you courageous enough to receive that and go act on it despite, right? So I remember when I was in personal development, I've become a good storyteller. So if someone were to ask me anything about book thinkers, I could direct them to this fact. So for 2 years, I did personal development, and I had an accountability partner. Monday through Sunday, every day of the week, we had things we had to check off. And this is like drinking water, a gallon. This is going for a run. This is reading 10 pages, all these different things. Getting 8 hours of sleep. For 2 years, we analyzed these things. So that brought gratitude in play, that brought running, that brought a marathon. I read 100 books. But my mom, and she's the most amazing person on the planet, she used to say to me, Ryan, I think you're a little bit too much into that personal development stuff. I think you're a little too much, I think you're great as you are. You don't stress yourself out with that. But if I wasn't into personal development, I wouldn't be who I am. So even my mother, who has been my biggest encourager my entire life, was a naysayer. And that's life, right? We have everyone, it could be your mother, it could be your girlfriend, it could be your boyfriend, it could be whoever, your father, your brother. You will have naysayers forever. And I knew what was working for me, and I just stuck to it.
Very cool.
It's interesting that you guys are saying your experiences in college. For me personally, going through college, I was very shy, and it came from my strict upbringing and just a change in cultures, where I stayed quiet most of the time, unless it had to do something with school. Then I was all out. But on a personal level, I stayed quiet, and I could see, Ryan, you mentoring and teaching this perspective to kids, how it would alter their trajectory in life, because it took me so many years to find my voice when it came a personal voice. But business, no problem, because it was about everything else. So I love for you to move forward with what you're saying and actually begin to impact this next generation that is going to be our leaders. They're our next big piece.
Yeah, I'd like to share one more story, if I may. It's cool because I know that the people who are going to be on your podcast, Rima, are going to be such cool people. So, and it's not going to be about, like, I could have came in and said, I made this when I was this age and I'm now this, and, but it's not about that. It's about who you are as an individual. And I know this community that you and Alan have built is going to be about, like, generally giving and in kind, and everyone's going to be unique, and that's what it's all about. We're unique, but we're at the same time we're the same. So my brother is not inspired by sports. He's not inspired by self-development. He's not inspired by business. So people will look at him potentially and be like, what gives? And he had a tough road. But 2 years ago at Christmas time, he had spent some time in he had a tough road, but he was back with us. And he was into things that my mom didn't necessarily like, but he was interested in them. And when he was young, it was like GI Joes, but how many people are still into GI Joes when you're 30 years old? There are people out there, good for them, stick with it. But what's my brother into? It wasn't as obvious. It wasn't the things that I was into that a lot of people are into. So he wanted to, like, grow CBD, and I was like, my mom was like, oh, no way, like, that is the worst idea ever. He's gonna spiral out again. And I said, it's something that he's always really wanted to do. And I bought him a few tents for Christmas this year. And so he started growing his CBD, and now he loves himself more. He has passion. He's doing it for good. It's focused on physical illness and its ability to cure. He's happy. He sees his value. He's a leader. He's expressed his creativity. He holds himself to the highest standard. He's able to show off his gifts to others, and he's totally changed as a human being. So the point is, none of us know what that is, but we're all unique, and we all have something really amazing about us.
And I think it takes great individuals like you, like Alan, to be working with the younger generation so that they have the opportunity to discover who they are. What is their true passion and what are they good at, so that they become a lot more aware of themselves for them to prosper. That's success. It's not getting into any brands or any companies or a certain school. It's how do you become the best version of you? And you said it best about your brother. Once he discovered what works for him, now he's shining. How are you carrying that forward, Ryan? Because you work a full-time job and you're beginning to develop this world.
How am I carrying forward my support of my brother or
Both,
support of humanity?
both.
It doesn't take that much, meaning I kind of view it as a pendulum, right? And when you're over here and you're in a tough spot, you just got to inch your way. And it's not like you're not just going to swing, you know? It's not going to be like, oh, in 6 months, I'm way over here. I'm the happiest guy on the planet. If that's the case, and I don't know, you either got into something really good or you know, I'm worried about you. To be honest,
medication or something.
So, you know, it's just tapping into I just watch, honestly. I've just been watching, and had the blessing of being in the hot seat with amazing people like yourselves, where I got an hour worth of uninterrupted feedback about what I should do next with my life. And yeah, my niche, like Deborah said, Ryan, what's your niche? I can't find the niche. I was thinking to myself, you've done amazing things, and what's your niche? I was like, well, I don't know what my niche is. And I thought I identified it well, but it prompted thought. And I think my niche is leading by example, regardless of what situation I'm in. Like, what is a leader if you're not leading by example? I don't have another definition of leadership. So with my brother, I just lead and be the best brother I can be the best son I can be, the best friend I can be, and that's all I try to do. And that is what'll be my future. I'll just continue to lead by example, and the kids that I have the opportunity to connect with every week, who I coach. You know, it's just going to be me leading by example and encouraging and empowering them to put their skill set into the world and lead others by example.
I know Alan has a question for you.
No, I think that's a great way. Well, I do. Not so much a question, but as we're kind of tying things together, is there a website or a place where we need to find you in the future and we can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think in the meantime, everyone can find me on my Instagram. It's Ryan, RYANW Mannion, MANNION. And I'll respond to anybody. I'll take any DM. I'm always here to support and give back. And that is what makes this world go around. And it could be the most casual thing ever. Like, hey, man, what's up with the hair? You're a good looking guy. Why don't you just comb your hair for the podcast? And I'll give it a response. Probably a voice text.
Ryan, it's wonderful to see your authenticity, honestly. I think that's what helps the most, is that even though you've done all these great things, now you're in this transition place as you're moving forward and you don't have it all figured out, but you're taking steps. How does that feel to you?
I think I just do it in gratitude. Every step I take is in gratitude. So how does it feel? It feels great. How do you break down gratitude? Great. Yeah, it feels great. I do everything I do is in gratitude, and that's what life's given me, right? It's given me blessings, and I've co-created blessings. So I think we're all trying to figure it out. The funniest thing, the difference between like a kid as an adult just puts up a front that they haven't figured out for whatever they need to put up a front for. But I'm kind of just like a kid, you know?
Forgot where I heard this, but there's someone who said there is no such thing as adults. We're just bigger kids. You know, we're constantly learning. The phrase that they were saying is that when someone called them sir for the first time, they're like, wait a minute, I'm an adult. I didn't know that. And very similarly, I think we were all kind of really just becoming just bigger, smarter, more wise children, and we're just moving forward. So the adulthood is kind of a figment of our imagination, something we'd like to call ourselves to make ourselves feel better about ourselves.
And one of the things I'm so excited about with coaching, Alan, is being able to learn from kids 15 to 25.
Mhm.
Like, I will learn so much from those kids. I've learned so much from the interns that work for me. I look at them like, I am so proud of you guys, and I've learned so much from you. And that's true.
Yeah.
I had a student recently say to me, he's 23. He says, all of a sudden, adults expect us to know where we're heading and everything when we were just kids finishing school. And all of a sudden, they direct all of these things at us. And it made me think, honestly, I was like, wait a minute. It's true. There is no transition period. There's no, here's the next step. We expect all of a sudden that they're going to figure it all out and they're going to have an entire plan. It's like, we don't. We're still figuring it out as adults. But we put that pressure on them. It's like, what are you doing next? What are you doing next?
Yeah. It's so true. Well, that's where Ryan comes in. You're the guy's like, look, let's talk about that transition plan. It's not about your career, it's about who you are, and let's talk about that first and about coach you through those things. And I'm glad you're really targeting that demographic, because in all honesty, as Rima said, there is nobody to really help you with that. They only prepare you for work, right? That's it, not life. And that's a good skill. I'm not knocking colleges or the college preparatory or high school, whatever it is, but there's a lot to figure out, especially when the world is so vast and we have so much access to everything that it becomes overwhelming. So if someone can make sense of it, to be honest with you, I mean, all of us are in some ways are teachers. I teach at a university, and everything I teach is online somewhere, but I'm the guy that assembles it, listens to what they need, and then packages it in a way that they can digest it. And I think that's what you're doing, Ryan, is doing that for life.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? And I'm happy to be that person, because I know at the core of who I am is a great human being.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm the best-selling author of this. Well, I am too. I'm international bestseller in 8 different countries. But, everyone talks about their resume, but who are you as a person? And I know I'm a great person, so I'll coach. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Thank you for saying that, Ryan. That's been one of my pet peeves, is how much people ask about someone's accomplishments versus who they're being. And that is the biggest part that I would love to see begin to shift from everything that we're doing, for people to begin to recognize that human being and how are they being. Their accomplishments are wonderful, but what do they turn out to be in this world? What are their contributions? And I see that already in you. And honestly, that was one of the biggest draw for us to go, oh, Ryan's got to be on the podcast. He's got to come on the podcast.
I just think as an adult, people, they tend to have to put up something, right, to show their worth or whatever. But I digress. I don't know what it is. I just know that like when people ask me, who am I? You're not going to get the resume. You're going to get the conversation. So, yeah.
And if we can have people begin to do that, then we can start to see the shift in the world.
Yeah.
And it starts with each one of us.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, what do you do? Tell them who you are.
Yeah. And we all find our paths over time. You find our paths in conversation with others. I know I found mine by learning other people's paths. Like, I was just a sponge, and the more I was a sponge, the more I realized how connected we all are. And then that brought me super comfort, to know that my path isn't necessarily chosen by me. I just put my best foot forward as often as I can. And I do it from a place of who I am, which is like I said, it's a good person. So success in business to me is how good of a person are you and how giving are you. That's kind of like success in business. You learn through experience so that you could have conversations. But every time I've learned something, I've gotten brought to another level where I'm like totally, shouldn't be here. Like I have no idea what's going on. But then I learned something else, and I realized I should be here. Like, of course I should be here. So like I guess I'm looking forward to the next stage where I'm like, maybe dealing with someone bigger than Lee Steinberg. I don't know. And being like, okay, now I'm dealing with I don't know, president or a political official or whatever. And then I'll just still be here. I'll still be capable of whatever we got to do, because it's who you're being that creates that capability.
I love everything that you're about and what you say. And for our listeners, connect with Ryan on Instagram so that you can keep up with everything that he is working on. Is there anything else, Alan, that you'd like to ask Ryan that we may not have asked yet?
No, but I do appreciate you being here, Ryan. I think immediately in context of people who maybe not know, we're all part of the same mastermind group. And Ryan recently joined. It's funny. One thing I will say is they all say, "Oh, you're so young," and then they can always pick on that. I feel bad for you because you're like this outlier. You're like a young target, because most of the group members are a little older. But it is great to have you there, and instantly you gave a lot of gratitude the minute you got in there, and the minute you were listening to people talk, and I could tell it was very genuine, and I can tell that you really do appreciate and absorb the world around you. And I think that's a very important trait for everybody to adopt, is to take a step, look around, you appreciate what you're seeing, listen to people, and give feedback when you can, but listen and appreciate what you're hearing from them. It doesn't matter what background they come from, even what they're saying. In some cases, it's more about appreciating if they're offering wisdom, they're offering positivity. Then make sure you take a step back and appreciate it. And one thing you do say, and you've said it in this podcast, you appreciate yourself. That's a huge part of that, because a lot of times we appreciate everything around us and we forget to take a look in the mirror and go, "Hey, I like you. You're a good person. Thank you for being you." And then you walk throughout the day. You don't have to be egocentric to do that. You owe it to yourself to appreciate yourself. So I'm very grateful for you, Ryan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It takes a lot of courage to appreciate yourself.
It does.
It does. It does. And he said that you're the outlier in a sense in the group. I see you as the inspiration for the group and for what's coming for this generation going forward. So that's how I view you, Ryan. Is there anything that you'd like to share that we may not have asked you?
Well, I could hash it out with you guys forever. No, no, just
And
follow
we
me
would
on
sit here.
Instagram.
Yeah. Part 2 coming up.
Just follow me on Instagram, Ryan W. Mannion. And, I'm a co-founder of Book Thinkers, which is super cool. I do share on my socials what I'm up to, and it's always framed in gratitude, and it's always based on action, and if you follow me, you could see all these other people who are amazing, right? Like Rima and Alan. And we're all on a journey, and it's better to be in a journey together. So thank you both for bringing me on your podcast. I think you're both awesome. And I know that this will be a impactful podcast because of the guests that you'll bring into it. So I appreciate you both.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you,
That's
Ryan. To our listeners and viewers, remember, guys, our attitude determines our altitude in life, and that is what's going to move us forward. Alan, final words?
No, you said it best.
Thank you. And we will catch you guys on the next podcast. See you next time.
Thank you.